He's going to talk about the trap that they want you to stay in order for you to stay broke for the rest of your life. Let's see what he's got to say, and I'll give my thoughts as we go.
There are two kinds of people in America: people who build wealth by owning assets, and people who work hard, save, and hand a chunk of everything they earn over to the IRS. And here's what I've learned after more than 50 years of working with both kinds. The difference isn't intelligence. It isn't income. It's one decision. The wealthy almost never sell their assets. They borrow against them. Today, I want to show you exactly what that means and why once you understand it, you'll never look at your retirement plan the same way again. I want to start with a story. I had a client, a physician, who had done everything his financial advisor told him to do. He maxed out his 401k every year for 30 years. He had $2.3 million saved by the time he retired. First year in retirement, he took $150,000 out to live on. His tax bill that year, over $52,000. He called me, furious. He said, "Doug, I saved my entire career and I'm paying more in taxes now than when I was working. How is that possible?" And here's what I told him. It's possible because the conventional system isn't designed to make you wealthy. It's designed to make the government a partner in everything you build. The people who figured out how to step outside that system, they didn't do it by working harder. They did it by changing what they own and how they access it.
Now, before we continue, obviously, when you think about what he said at the beginning is so just powerful. There's two sets of people. It's not necessarily because they know something different. It's because, most importantly, they do something different. So you've got a group of people in life who turn around and they're like, I need to obtain as many assets as possible. An asset is something which continues to pay you money over and over again. Whereas you have other people who they want to save and they don't want to invest in assets, which basically just turns it into a lot of liabilities, which means it's taking money out of their pocket over and over and over again. Now, the one thing I'm not going to agree with is, which I've said this in the past, obviously, if you're going by what I like to call the world system, then going into huge amounts of debt is obviously going to be, there's a beneficial way to use that strategy in the world system. But I focus on using the word system, which is completely different. So obviously, I'm not big on debt. I would advise you to get out as much debt as possible, because the reality is debt is always going to keep you in a stronghold, and you're never ever going to be completely free as long as you have debt. I don't care what anybody says. So again, I understand that using debt in what I call the world system is a viable solution. But if you are going to go that way, then just understand the risks going that way. If you're going to go the way of the word, which is going to guarantee you the better success in the long term, then you're never going to have those drawbacks that come from being in the world. Now, the reality is sometimes things are going to go slower. That's okay. I would rather take a slower journey and get there without any major risk or anything along those lines. And in the end, I know it'll be the better idea to go. And in the end, I know it'll be the better way to go. Let's see what else he has to say, because he said a lot of good things already, but let's see what he has to say as well. Let's hear more about this story, which I think is really interesting.
Let me show you the principle. Let me lay out the principle first, and then I'm going to bring Emran in to walk through the specifics, because the tax side of this is where it gets genuinely interesting.
That reminds me as well, when he started talking about the tax and how people avoid and go around different situations, most people think that the government and all these different institutions are here for them to just naturally succeed just in a very easy way. They are, once you start doing what they actually say in the law code. But if you think that the government or whoever it is just going to be proclaiming all of these things for the world to see, no. This is why you don't hear any of this stuff broadcasted on the news, You hear a lot of crazy stuff and traumatic stuff on the news, which is one of the reasons I don't really watch the news, and I don't advise you watch the news either. That is really just a marketing distraction to keep you focused on things which, for the most part, you cannot control. But you know what you can control? What you do with your finances, how wiser you get with the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Let's listen to some
The
more.
core idea is simple. The United States tax code doesn't tax what you own. It taxes what you do with it. As long as you hold an asset, real estate, a business, a portfolio, the appreciation is unrealized. No tax. The moment you sell, tax event, capital gains, potentially ordinary income. So,
and when you think about that, it's a powerful lesson about ownership. When you have assets, you don't want to sell those assets. You want to continue to own them because they're going to continue to make you money. The only other time you'd think about potentially selling is if you're upgrading. You're going from one vehicle to a bigger vehicle or a better vehicle or a newer vehicle, one that can pay you and produce even more money for you.
So rule number one of building wealth the way wealthy people do, never sell what you can borrow against. Now, real estate is where most people first encounter this principle. And Imran, I want you to walk us through exactly how the mechanics work.
Hey, thanks, Dad. So let's say you bought a rental property, and let's say you bought it for $200,000, and now years later, it's worth $500,000. You've really got two different options we want to look at here. Option number one, you sell it, and you now have a $300,000 gain. At the current federal capital gains rate, plus state income taxes, you could end up paying $60,000 to even $90,000 in taxes. And you've basically hit the reset button. You've got no more real estate, no more appreciation, no more cash flow. Now, option two involves leverage or a cash out refinance. You call your bank, and let's say the property again is worth 500 grand, so you take out a $200,000 loan. You owe 100 grand, so you take out 200 grand. That's on a new loan. Now that $200,000 goes where? It lands right there in your bank account. The IRS doesn't touch it because it's debt, not income. You still own the property, it's still appreciating, and it's still generating cash flow.
See, so again, as I already mentioned about debt, if you're going to go down this way, it's viable, right? This is a world system which many wealthy people who are into debt will do and will promote left, right, and center. The only difference when you think about it in the caveat is, well, you buy a piece of real estate, right? You have to have the money in order to buy it. You're not going to go out and borrow from the bank anyway, right? If you have, I'm thinking, for example, now, like in Jewish circles, right? Jewish circles, they'll have like their network. They will pull money together, and then you can go and invest in something. And they're not going to be seeking interest from you. So you're not in debt the same way a bank, which is the conventional way that most people will get money from a lender, it works. When you think about something like that, this is a way how people can network and pull together and also increase. But think about it. Let's say, for example, you buy a piece of real estate for 200 grand, right? You're going to own that for a long period of time. You're going to be thinking generationally. Why? Because the Bible talks about a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. So if you have saved up, your investments have got you to about 200 grand, for example, just to follow his scenario, and you buy a piece of real estate, it's not going to be likely as big a real estate as what he's probably talking about, because he's probably talking about putting 200 grand down into a property which has 4 times the value. So it's probably like an 800 grand potential piece of real estate. When you think about it from that perspective, so okay, cool. You've got 200 grand in real estate. You own the building or the real estate property, whatever it is, outright. You're getting cash flow every single month, which is great. And what you would do is, obviously, you've got no mortgage payments. So all of the money that comes into the business is profit, right? Now, what you would do is, there's multiple things you can do. You can use that money that's coming every single month. And obviously all the expenses that come in and are associated with this business will be write-off, so you won't have to pay tax. And then you just take all of that money and you now buy another piece of real estate. So again, you may not be buying as big real estate with the money that you have, but you buy another piece of real estate. There's no more money to be taxed in that regards, because there's so many write-offs you can manage through real estate and other as well, like business ventures as well. But then you're buying a property, a new property, money comes in, you reinvest in the business, you keep doing it over and over again, you continue to own and acquire more assets, which continue to make the money that you're making even bigger. So you can do this with debt, or you can do it without debt. Both ways are going to work. And again, it's for you to decide which way you're going to do it. Obviously, here we react righteously, so we're always going to be doing things the way that God desires us to do it, because that's always going to set us up in the best position to win, and not only win now, but also win long term.
And here's the piece that makes this generational. When you pass away, your heirs will inherit that property with a step up in basis at the current market value. So the cost basis resets to whatever it's worth at the point of death. This is referred to as a step up in basis. All of the appreciation that happened over your lifetime is transferred to your heirs without any taxation. So yes, the IRS just simply lets that go. So your heirs can sell the next day, the very next day, that your heirs can sell the property with zero capital gains tax, or keep holding it and continue borrowing over their entire lifetime.
So what Emran just walked through, borrow against the asset, never sell, pass it clean at death. That's the borrow till you die strategy in its original form. And real estate has been the vehicle most people use for it. But I want to be honest with you about something. Here's what I've seen happen to people who rely solely on real estate for this strategy. Banks change their lending standards. A market correction reduces your equity. Getting a cash out refi at age 72 on a fixed income is not as straightforward as it sounds. I had a client,
And before he goes into what happened to this particular client, all of those three things that he mentioned do not affect you in any way, shape, or form when you are paying for real estate or investing in these different vehicles with your own money. I promise you. Listen, one thing that we know is guaranteed is every 10 or so years, there's going to be some sort of financial crisis, which is going to determine how the banks move. They may have been lending out so much money with low interest rates. Something happens, the interest rates increase, and then so many people get squeezed, so many people lose their houses, literally. The reason why that happens is because you're over leveraged. You're taking out money, you're borrowing money which you can't afford. You may be able to afford it in this particular season, in this particular climate, but like what he just said, there's going to come points in time where the market is going to change, the season is going to change. Are you able to manage in that difficult change of circumstances? Most people no, because they're normally leveraging way beyond what they can actually do. This is why if you buy your stuff outright, you're not going to worry about this stuff. You're going to sleep the same way you do in an up market than when it's a down market. It doesn't matter. This is why ownership, true ownership, is priceless.
call him James, who had built a beautiful real estate portfolio over 30 years.
He's about to explain it to you. Watch.
6 properties, over $4 million in equity. When he turned 68 years old, he needed to start accessing that equity. His health had changed, his income was fixed, and the banks were not cooperative. He had millions sitting in appreciation he couldn't easily reach. The principle was right. The vehicle had friction. And that's exactly what and why I'm going to show you in video 2 changed everything for my clients. But before we get there, Emran, tell them about the other thing real estate can do that most people completely miss.
Right, so beyond equity, appreciation, and cash out refinancing, real estate creates something called depreciation. A paper loss to the IRS that lets you write off against your income. So with a provision called the bonus appreciation, which has been a significant feature of the tax code, you can accelerate those losses dramatically in your early years owning a property.
And this applies to so many other things in life. For example, if you have a business, for example, you buy a computer, you buy let's just stick with the computer analogy. You pay for the computer at a certain price, right? Whatever the price is. over the years, you get to add depreciation on the fact that the thing is losing value. So you can write off the whole particular purchase, but then there's depreciation, which is on top of that. So it's like you're getting away from paying tax in two ways. You bought something, in his case, he's talking about the property, and it's a price. So that's obviously something which is a write-off. But then at the same time, the bricks are going to get older, for example. The computer is going to get older. It's going to depreciate. So this is, think about how we always talk about people wasting money on consumer debt, right? They buy these things, they buy clothes, they buy cars, they buy all of these gadgets just to stunt, right? It's depreciation. They are losing from that depreciation. Whereas in business, when you take these same sort of steps and you buy stuff which can actually help your business continue to boom, it's a write-off just generally, but then there's depreciation. It's going down in value, and that also plays a part in your tax write-off at the end of the year. Guys, I'm going to end it here. If you want me to continue with more of this video, let me know in the comment section below. But until next time, God bless. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and as always, do not forget to react righteously. And if you're interested in learning how you can actually set yourself up right now in order to start getting some additional income separate from your job, link in the description box. I'll see you on the next one. God bless.